Well, angry scenes have erupted in central Sydney as hundreds of Muslims protest against a controversial film about the Prophet Muhammad. Hundreds of people are gathering in Hyde Park, where some have been chanting in Arabic, and a sign is being displayed with the words, "Behead those who insult the Prophet." Now, this protest began early this afternoon outside the United States Consulate in Sydney's CBD before spreading through the city's streets to Hyde Park. The ABC understands this protest was sparked by a mass text message saying, "We must defend the honour of our Prophet, we must act now." Well, ABC reporter Winsome Denya is on the phone. She joins us now. Winsome, how are things looking there at the moment?
The protest now seems to have dispersed. We've just been through the streets of Sydney. We saw the crowd that was here just half an hour ago. There was a couple of hundred people here still protesting. It was reasonably peaceful, and then we saw the crowd get up, start to move towards the edge of the park. And at that point, the police forces who are here, there's around about 100 police at least here, they tried to prevent the crowd from leaving the park. That then raised tensions. We saw some anger from the protesters. They were throwing plastic bottles, some of those bottles full of water. Then we saw a couple of protesters arrested. The police were clearly trying to contain the protesters in the park, and it seemed like that they wanted to leave. So then we saw the crowd move to the other side of the park, down some of the central streets here in Sydney, and we saw riot police come and try and contain the situation, and they seem to have managed to disperse the crowd.
OK, and we saw earlier on one policeman was injured in Martin Place. Are there any other injuries that you've seen?
I haven't seen any injuries myself, no, but there was certainly quite a scuffle as the protesters tried to leave the park. Now, I'm not exactly sure where they were going, whether they wanted to move to another location, but things got quite heated, so it's possible that there could have been some injuries, but I haven't seen anything specifically. We have got a lot of ambulances here on site and a lot of police around, so there's definitely contingencies for any complications.
And we heard a short time ago that the protesters were giving police a 15-minute deadline to release those who had been arrested earlier on in the day. Is there any sign that those threatening that have followed through?
Look, they said they were going to stay here in the park until they found out what had happened to a couple or possibly three people who were arrested earlier in the day. We're not sure whether they got any word from police or what sparked the crowd to move and decide to move out of the park. So I'm not sure whether those requests had been met, but we'll have to wait from official word from police on that.
And in terms of official word from police, have they spoken to the media officially yet?
The police here at Hyde Park aren't speaking to us. They say that they will provide an official statement soon. That'll come through the media office. But the police here who have been on site haven't been telling us anything, no.
OK, Winsome Denya at Hyde Park, thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
And our reporter Rebecca Barrett spoke to one woman attending the protest.
Well, the US film that is out right now about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is basically just making fun of him, and we're just here to protest against it, and US and basically tell everybody like that we're Muslims. Actually, our religion, we don't let this. We don't actually. Sorry, we don't. Sorry.
Have you seen the film?
But, no, I don't like to say anything like this against my religion, because my religion is very peaceful. You might think we're terrorists and all that, because that's what words go out and all that, especially in America. That's what people think.
Rebecca Barrett speaking to one protester a short time ago. Well, Jamila Rizvi is the managing editor of Australian women's discussion website Mamma Mia, and she was in Market Street this afternoon during the protest, and she joins us now on the phone. Thank you for joining us. Now, you speak Arabic. What sort of sentiments were you hearing from protesters as you witnessed the demo?
I don't want to talk up my ability to speak Arabic, but I've got little bits and pieces. We were in the city this morning going shopping, and as we were walking we were probably there when I imagine the protesters were around the US consulate, and we could certainly see there were several groups of young Muslim men starting to group around, and you could certainly there was a feeling of urgency and protest in the air, and I was catching bits of the conversation. I got to stress my Arabic's very, very, very beyond basic, but you could certainly tell that they were angry. Everyone was worked up. There was a lot of shouting, certainly about abuse of the Prophet, etc. And as we got closer into the city, we realised that the small groups we were seeing were definitely joining part of a much larger group.
And how would you describe the response of police in the way you saw it?
Look, from when I was there, and I was there quite early in the day today, there were hundreds of protesters, but the protest looked very different to what we're seeing on TV at the moment. It was much larger, and there were a lot more women and children and families who were part of the protest, and it looked largely very peaceful. So seeing that huge police presence, I've got to say, at the first point was a little bit of a shock. It was sort of like, oh, why are there so many here? But now it seems the protest really has moved on away from a large peaceful protest to a small minority of that group that were there originally, who seem to be getting quite violent and out of control.
Would you say that the fact that there was initially a large presence of women and children there, that suggests that it may have been intended to be a peaceful protest by the majority?
That was certainly how I felt. In those early points, I was talking to some of the women who were there before the police had really arrived in any great numbers, and they were they were really upset by the film, really bothered by the film, but they seemed to think they were part of a peaceful protest. And I was sort of saying, why are your children here? And their reaction very much was that they didn't feel like there was anything to be nervous about or worried about. But certainly as the protest moved to Hyde Park, you saw a lot of women with their kids and a lot of women with strollers and prams leaving the vicinity and clearly getting their families out of there.
And some Muslims have taken to social media, or those identifying themselves as Muslims, saying that they don't support this protest at all. Is that a sentiment that you've seen from others?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, my background is I'm from a Muslim family, although I'm not religious myself, but I fear what comes next, which is the backlash from Australians against seeing this sort of thing, because you can't help but feel scared and nervous. And, you know, this is the middle of my city, and, you know, you're supposed to be out having a gorgeous day shopping in the middle of spring, and yet these are the scenes you're seeing with hundreds of police everywhere. I worry about people thinking that this is all of Islam. This is a really tiny minority of people who have gotten a bit out of control and too hot-headed today over something that doesn't matter that much.
And we should emphasise, Jamila, that you were merely a bystander at this protest. You were shopping in the city.
I was going to Sports Girl.
when it broke out. But from the way you see it, do you see this as a unified protest against this anti-Islamic film, or potentially are there other motivations here?
I think the film was a trigger, but I think there is certainly a feeling throughout the West of young Muslim men who feel disenfranchised and disconnected from mainstream society and do feel put upon. And I think it's easy to jump on a bandwagon when you feel like that. And I feel like that's what's happened today, that people are protesting over something. For me, you know, from what I've heard of the film, it's a bit of a spoof, you know, and it's not something to be this riled up about, but people are entitled to protest peacefully. But from what I saw today, this got out of control from a smaller minority within a larger group. And certainly, you know, the some of the signs and the placards and the things that are being called out today are really distressing, and they're going to upset people. And I don't know how you can think you can appropriately protest a film for promoting hate by promoting hate yourself, which is what's happening today.
OK, Jamila, thanks very much for your insights there.
No problem.
And the ABC spoke to some other people at the protest. Let's have a listen to what they had to say.
See, the message is very simple. Freedom of expression has some limits. You cannot simply, spread the message of hate and say that, this is the freedom of expression. It has to be condemned on all levels, whether it is, Australia or whether it is United States. So, that's all what I have to say. It has to be condemned. That's it.
And do you think that a protest like this is getting that message across?
Well, I don't know, but the point is that we have to protest about it. We have to protest that freedom of expression does not mean that you insult people. You hurt people, and
freedom of expression means you don't hurt the other ones. And this kind of movies that hurt the Muslims. So this is not right. If you are doing in your limits, this is all right. So this is the point. You don't hurt the other ones. And
I mean, if we abuse people, you know, standing on the street and then say it's a freedom of expression, the next day we would be locked up. So, you know, this is not right.
There seem to be hundreds of people here today, so people feel very passionately about this.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the world, if you see, you know, all these footages, especially I've seen on ABC as well, that, you know, in all the Muslim world back there, it's, you know, people are, you know, being outrageous about this, and this is not correct. Like, you know, the freedom of expression has to be in the context, but this is totally out of the context.
Do you think...
I was helping the police. And they just, they were provoking everybody on the street.
They assaulted our sisters, put them to the ground, and pepper sprayed them.
And then they pepper sprayed me and they hit me from the back, and I was helping the police. So that's what's happened.
Can you believe that this is happening?
No, because it's a democratic country and everybody has a freedom of speech, and the police came with riot squads provoking everybody to do this, and they're just spraying everybody.
You're saying you were helping police. How were you helping police?
I was helping police, making a line. I was in front of the police officer, and I was with that sergeant. I've got his photo on my phone, and then I was helping him. He knew that, and then other guys behind him hit me and pepper sprayed me.
The riot squad have too much power.
Yeah, for no reason whatsoever, and I was helping the police.